The American dream has become a nightmare. Signs of the time are on cardboard on corners in town. Like a cancer that's silently spreading, there's an unspoken fear. We're on our way down. We must take America back. Main Street to Wall Street, cities and states, Washington, D.C.
We're back, second hour of the National Intel Report on this Tuesday, and we're going to have Andy Hoffman with us on the second and, what did we say, the fourth Tuesday?
Correct.
Of every month. Now that we got that nailed down. Appreciate you. Before you go into the article that you addressed this, I've also got to drop this in on the same website, We the People. There are now petitions showing up to strip citizenship of the individuals signing these petitions to secede, and they want to exile them from the country, evidently. Now, Andy, you were going to say, sir.
Well, yeah, I wrote a piece in August of 2011 called "Unprecedented," where I predicted that first the Eurozone would break into pieces because of all the different nations with different cultures and financial situations, and then it will shock people. But the same thing will happen in the States. And actually, I predicted that Texas would be the first state to go. They already have that history of the Republic of Texas. They're very nationalistic about it. And they also have oil, so they can be self-sufficient if they're properly run. And as actually, Bill Holter from Miles Franklin wrote a piece called "Great Divide" today about this very topic. I have no doubt at all that you're going to see calls for secession from the stronger states. You mentioned Wyoming, which is the only state with a budget surplus. They're a no-brainer, and any state that's self-sufficient. And then, of course, you're talking about people are going to be blackballed for signing these petitions. I mean, it's a real dangerous area with the National Defense Authorization Act, and now Obama's flexibility now that he has no more elections. So people are going to have to be very careful what they say, but ultimately that's going to happen.
Well, and it's interesting to me because, as I said, that this is just the barometer of how people are feeling. Now, does a petition sent directly over to the White House asking permission? I mean, when you really think about this. Let me throw this in here before you come up, Paul. This is the only thing, the analogy I can come up with. It would be like prisoners in a federal or state prison petitioning the warden, and everybody signs it to open up the doors and let them go. Now, you can ask, but you shall not receive.
Well, here's the thing, John. Let's take a look at what these people have been working for the last 100 years. When the Federal Reserve was brought into existence in 1912, 1913, after that we've had World War I, World War II, various other wars and conflicts. The primary goal was to establish a national bank in every country around the world so that they could then collect their tribute. I doubt that they're going to let anybody succeed unless they agree to put in a national bank in whatever organization they create. And the question I would raise is this: if these people are globalists and if they're moving towards world government, why would they give this permission to succeed to anybody? To me, it goes against what their agenda is. That's
also, I had seen reports coming out of Russia that was predicting that the United States is going to break up and become 4 or 5 different countries. On a whole, I have been against secession because we don't need to. The way this is set up, we are 50 independent and sovereign nations banded together in this confederacy. But it is the states themselves that can get together and dissolve this nightmare we are now calling the federal government, because they've thrown the Constitution, the baby, the bathwater, anything that you and I would hold to be real and valuable, they've thrown it right out the window. We'll break. We'll be back in 3.
Wouldn't you agree? Healthy people are happier and more productive. Obesity is the root cause of many health problems. Do you want to lose weight safely, look sexy and attractive without side effects and no chemicals? Lose weight without the side effects safely with Zeno's organic dietary supplements. Made in the USA, 100% USDA certified organic. Visit www.zenos.com. That's www.zenos.com. Try our products risk-free for a limited time offer. No purchase necessary. You only pay shipping and handling. Get your old, sexy body back now. Visit Zenos.com. Get your free supplements now. Visit Zenos.com right now. www.zenos.com. That's www.zenos.com.
Are you concerned about fluoride, chlorine, parasites, and other contaminants in your drinking water? Dalton ceramic water filters have been made continuously since 1827 and are used by disaster relief organizations and in third world countries to supply safe drinking water. Not only do we offer gravity filter systems, but also under the sink and countertop systems. Our replacement filters can be used to upgrade your existing system. And unlike some other filters on the market, Dalton filters do not have to be primed. For more information, call us at 800-696-1435, 800-696-1435, or order online at Dalton.com. That's DOULTON.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Get ready for Real Talk Radio. You're listening to the National Intel Report with your host, John Stachmiller.
All right, we're back. Gentlemen, there is a way that we can shut this nightmare down. Now, I remember Rick Perry here in Texas. He got a lot of mileage, cranked a lot of heads around, and that's when people were paying attention to Ron Paul, and because he was paying attention to the Constitution. Rick Perry started talking about 10th Amendment. The only way that changes are going to be made with what these out-of-control, bought-off Congress critters in Washington, D.C., the only way that we're going to change this environment is to nullify what they're doing. And the best way to do this, and the founders warned us about this when they wrote the documents, ladies and gentlemen. See, we're now kind of has-beens, not wannabes, but has-beens, because it has worked. If we can restore the republic, it will work again. But we've got somebody working against the interest of freedom and liberty, personal wealth. Give it a name. Your laundry list, tack it to the Fed. We've got legislation moving through the House down here in Texas telling the feds through their TSA, don't touch my stuff. And they mean it. And I think this bill will pass. But we're coming to loggerheads here. The founders warned us about an out-of-control federal government, and when that happens, it is not just our duty, not just our obligations. It is our patriotic duty to dissolve that which it's turned on its own people. We've seen the centralization of power in Washington, D.C., more power grab, more. Okay, we've had enough. We figured out that Al-Qaeda is not hiding under our bed. Why? Because they've been receiving arms shipments to go into Syria. Al-Qaeda is now working with our own people to destabilize governments. Isn't that funny? Don't you remember George Bush saying, we're on the hunt? We're figuring that I guess the American people couldn't understand more than 3 words or 4 words in a sentence. We're on the hunt. We're on the hunt. That's the only thing this guy could say. Al-Qaeda was a creation of the CIA, ladies and gentlemen. They're now using the supposed boogeyman to destabilize these other governments and to bring these so-called regimes down. Look, this is not our territory. Those are sovereign nations over there. The people have the right to their own determination as to what government they have. We, coming out of Washington, D.C. and our Pentagon here, ladies and gentlemen, now we have people deciding the fate of other people with their very lives in sovereign nations. If we are going to get serious, gentlemen, the only way that this is going to happen is through a strong grassroots, backed by law and the Constitution we have in each individual state, and also making the critters stick to the federal Constitution. This is the only way that I see to do this, is dissolve this thing we're calling the federal government, which is no longer a representative form of government, because what was the number one priority for the federal government? First on the list, to secure a Republican form of government to each and every state.
John,
well,
you're 100% right about what should happen. The only problem we've got is you've got on one end, you've got 53% of the people in this country that like it this way. I mean, that's what this election showed. Is these people...
Paul, let me jump in here, because I don't give a damn what those 53%. If they want this kind of government, let them go take over some other third world country and let them institute a government that satisfies their every whim and their every need and their every bailout, every entitlement from the government. I don't give a crap what those 53% of the people want. It's not lawful and it's not constitutional. I don't care what they're asking for.
But it's not 53%. It's more than 53%. I mean, the Republicans are no different right now. They're both big government.
Right.
And when it comes down to the biggest employer in this nation is the government itself. So who of all these people that are working for the government want to be fired? It's too late. We're at the point, because of the fiat currency system, where people have voted themselves bigger government, and now it's too late to go back. We've let all of the real jobs go overseas, and all that's left is unproductive government jobs. No one wants to get rid of those, because that's their jobs. Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is this. Yeah. Is that I decided I wanted to lead the parade. I looked behind me, and there was nobody there. And that's what the problem is that the reality is the people that are parasitical, and as you pointed out, we're talking about the 1%, as well as individuals that have no problem taking the labor away from other individuals. Those individuals are going to self-destruct. They have to. So we need to get out of the way. And what I mean by that, if you go online and you sign this petition, you might as well just say, I am a political dissident, come and get me. And my feelings are, most of those signatures came through the internet anyway. I don't know how many are legitimate. Who knows if this is an intelligence operation, just like everything else these people have come up with. I mean, the point is the people that are patriotic, by now we should have learned our lessons that these people will do anything to find and identify every single one of us. So the best thing we can do right now is keep our heads down, let this thing play out. We've done our best to educate people, continue that process, and when things come crumbling down, make sure that we're prepared to take care of ourselves and our families. That's all I'm saying, John.
Well, and Paul, you know what? That sounds good, but there's something left out of that equation. Now is the time for people not to pull their neck and their head back into their shirt collars. I do believe that it's time, because the law is on our side. What I see as a reaction to is to like the NDAA, to TSA, that people are cowering to not what they think is right, but they're cowering to the power of government. When you have an environment such as that, they have won and the people have lost. The people have lost because this representative government has no rules anymore. None.
John, you and I are already at the top of the list. I doubt there's anything else I can say that's going to make them angry at me than they are.
Brother, I can make a statement within the next 10 seconds that would bring the Fed on me like white on rice. Trust me.
So this isn't about us. I mean, I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is that we need to get back to the basic concept that people are making choices. And when the majority of people make the wrong choice, you have bad things that happen. And sadly, and unfortunately, and miserably, that affects us. But it's not like you and I have been sitting back all these years and saying, isn't this great that this stuff's happening? We've done our best to wake people up. Well, that's all you can do.
Well, okay, no, I will disagree with that. I have not done my best to wake people up. I have not been effective in my mission because the megaphone is too small. We need a bigger one. I have no doubt whatsoever, and I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I have no doubt whatsoever that this network in its content on the law, on the Constitution, on many of the issues, banking, taxation, I don't care what it is, that this network, if the people of this country had the ability to dial in a radio, and I just got an email today, forgive me, I can't bring it up this very second, but somebody that first-time listener caught the first half hour of my show yesterday, was bowled over. He never thought that he would hear anybody talking the way I did. And I'm not a radical. I'm not calling for a revolution in this country. I'm simply calling for a restoration, like you would do to a 1962 Chevy Impala, for God's sakes. It's already been done. It has already been built. The only thing we got to do is clean out the rat feces and do a little touch-up, do a little paint, do a little interior work, put a new top on it, baby, and we're good to go.
Well, you're talking about the secessions. I mean, it's not like there's going to be a big national movement to change president. We just had an election. No one could care less. They won't even listen to Ron Paul. But these secessions will pick up because you're going to see states like California really, really start to ask for bailouts, and other states like Texas are going to go, are you kidding me? We're not paying for them. That's why I was laughing when you mentioned New York and New Jersey wanted to see after they're begging for all this money for Sandy, let alone their other problems.
Yeah.
So, no, that's going to be the form that I believe is going to be of revolution, is going to be the states.
I think you're going to see basically a total disintegration of urban society. That's where it's going to begin. And literally it's going to be people rioting because they can't go and take the government check and get more than a loaf of bread. Yeah. That's what I think is going to happen.
Absolutely. Inflation is the big equalizer against the powers that be.
Andy, I'm not going to hold you up. I appreciate you spending this extra time with us today. You are on my calendar to be with us on the 27th.
Right.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Well, and I appreciate you. You're a breath of fresh air because you're not over the top. You're very calm. You're very well loaded with fact, and you've got a good on-air presence, and I'm very happy to include you in this broadcast.
And I'm happy to be here.
All righty. Well, Andy, I'll let you go. You're probably crossing your legs right now, or you have some place to go. But I appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you in a couple of Tuesdays.
Great. Take it easy, guys.
Okay, you too. Paul Drockton.
Yes, sir.
I wished we could zip load this into everybody's head right now, but we'll just say it the old. I can't do it any other way. Maybe if I spoke Peg Latin or Chinese, Mandarin, maybe they would understand a little bit better. But people, insurance policy, gold, silver. Not because I didn't sell gold and silver for a number of years, and I told people, go buy it. It's going to be your only insurance policy. Paul, I don't know of any other way to explain to people why, while these markets are being suppressed, gold is still relatively low, silver is still relatively low. It is going to skyrocket out of your ability to even contemplate purchasing down the road. So when we get back from the break, I want to have you explain to these people why the hell they should be buying gold and silver right now. I think they've heard it so many times, they have forgotten the reason why they should be buying their insurance policy. We'll break. We'll be right back.
As many of you know, natural supplements are fantastic for your body and have zero side effects. You need to restore your body's natural balance. TerraVim strives to carry only the highest quality dietary supplements and natural vitamins that can be beneficial in helping your body recover from the impact of daily stress, allergens, illness, environmental pollution, and the aging process. Why buy from TerraVim? Simple. TerraVim provides a rewards program. Earn $1 for every $10 spent, free health consultations, free shipping on all orders, and an additional 10% discount on every order when you mention the coupon code RBN. Call 866-647-4372. That's 866-647-4372, or go to terravim.com. That's TerraVim.com. TerraVim, the best supplements on earth.
$4, $5, $6, even $7 a gallon? According to fuel industry insiders and economic experts, those are the forecasted fuel prices, with no end in sight. Fight back fuel prices with a fuel saver from airfusionsystems.com. These fuel savers can save you from 20 to 40%. They're designed to fit any vehicle, from compacts to SUVs to transport trucks. The fuel saver works on all gas, diesel, even propane engines. Easy do-it-yourself installation in about 15 minutes. And the best part? No engine modifications, no computer chipping, no running wires, no chemicals, no water, no running costs, and no maintenance. And these fuel savers come complete with all parts and accessories. See how it works at airfusionsystems.com, spelled AIRFUSION systems.com, or call 888-887-9981, 888-887-9981. Fuel savers from airfusionsystems.com. Save fuel, save money, save Earth.
In times like these, you can't depend on the government to keep you warm and fed, but you can depend on the Vermont Bun Baker to do just that. With the Vermont Bun Baker, you'll never be in a situation where you can't cook, bake, fry, boil water, or heat your home, all at the same time. One of the most revolutionary cook stoves, wood stoves ever, the Vermont Bun Baker is available with or without soapstone veneer, a natural stone that retains heat and radiates it back into the room once the fire is out. A beautiful addition to your home. The Vermont Bun Baker has an efficiency rating well above 75% and qualifies for the wood stove tax credit. For more information, watch the Vermont Bun Baker on YouTube and live stream, or visit us at www.vermontwoodstove.com. You can also reach us by calling 1-866-SOAPSTONE. Don't ever be hungry or cold because the power's gone out. With a Vermont Bun Baker, all you have to worry about is what's for dinner.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. They're the English bankers. Some say that we have never gotten away from England. Let me ask you this. I mean, flat out. I mean, people have heard different things, varying things. They've got their portfolios. Their specialists, their brokers, whatever, will tell them, okay, well, gosh, if you're all hell-bent on precious metals, okay, how about 17, maybe 20% of your portfolio in gold and silver? Paul, why should people be converting everything that they've got? I don't care if it's retirement. I don't care what it is. Stocks, bonds, if they're, excuse me for saying this, if you folks are dumb enough to still be holding on to them, why should people be buying the gold and silver right now? Give them a damn good reason.
Well, because there isn't going to be any in a very short period of time for them to buy. So, it's just kind of like, how can I explain this? This is like the grocery store having a special on milk, and then all of a sudden all the cows die and there's no more milk. I mean, the precious metals market is based on supply, and as Andy pointed out, people are buying but no one's selling back. That's huge. So that means for every 99 ounces of silver or gold that goes out, there's only one coming back for resale. So the only way we're going to get more precious metals is if people are getting it out of the ground and taking it through the refining process, and that's a 5-year process. And the problem we have is literally that you're competing not only against the banksters, you're competing against China, which is right now is number one in gold consumption and silver. You're competing against India. I mean, this is a global economy competing for the same gold that you're thinking is going to be there 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, or 2 months from now. So it's simple supply and demand. So when it comes right down to it, when most people figure out that it's time to get into precious metals, there just isn't going to be time to buy it because it will no longer be available, John. And it really is that simple.
Well, okay, so we've gone to some people's budgets. Well, I don't know, it might be a little overpriced for me right now. Okay, folks, you tell me, and I will listen. If you're telling me that there's something else better to save what assets you have left, if you can tell me a better way to do it, I'm all ears. I don't see a better way, and I've looked for them all. We are in a crisis situation in this country that, folks, and this is not going to be a slow downhill turning into a third world nation. We're doing a pretty good job of imitation of that, but when the collapse does come, and it will, not kind of sort of maybe, no, maybe you, John, you're misreading your tea leaves. No, put your glasses on. You're not reading the right thing on the wall. Yes, I have. I've looked for every other avenue to try to convince myself otherwise, and that's the way I play this. I take nothing, absolutely nothing at face value. I go out there and research it on something such as this. You folks that listen to me on this network, you heard me say how many years ago when people were still, 9/11 was an inside job. I'm telling you there's a tsunami coming. And excuse me, I'm getting out of that chair and I'm sitting in this one because this is what I see coming. And I was right by doing it. I gave people early warning. They did buy some insurance policies, but not enough of you out there because still, ladies and gentlemen, 99% of this country does not have any physical gold or silver. And when they finally decide to convert what itty-bitty they have left, it's not going to be there, as Paul Drockton just said. Paul, I'm going to let you go here at the bottom of the hour, but I know you've got a deal for the Tuesday listeners, and I hope to God that you take advantage of it because I don't want you sitting around grumbling, homeless and cold and foodless with your family, if you still have it, saying, geez, I shoulda when John said.
Okay, John, this is an introductory package, and as long as it's available, and who knows how long that'll be, 90% silver coins. These are coins that are pre-1965, half dollars, quarters, and dimes, U.S., and basically 100 face, which has 71.5 ounces of pure silver in it for $2,557. And that is while supplies last, my friends. And 90%, we've had shortages before. I anticipate more. All so right. that is on the silver side. On the gold side, gold eagles, minimum of 5 for $1,851 each, $1,851 each.
That's the cheapest I've heard out there. And keep in mind, folks, this guy doesn't come up here just to be a spokesman for Republic Trading Group. He is the main broker for Republic Trading Group, but he has years of experience in building people's portfolio. He will give you advice on how you should structure. If you want to roll over a 401 or an IRA, here's the man to talk to. If you need to pay some pressing bills and you've loaded up on a bunch of gold and say maybe you want to convert some of that over to silver because you think there may be a better or higher return, talk to the man. Talk to him. He's a one-stop shop, one of the brightest guys that I've ever worked for in all things monetary. Been there, done that. Call him. For God's sakes, I cannot make it any clearer. Call Paul Drockton at 800-691-7898. And Mr. Drockton, you got a half hour before you pop up on your show today on the network. Thank you for being here today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, John.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Well, since James Corbett is not with us this hour, and if you're listening, James, I see you. No, just teasing. He'll be with us next Tuesday. We'll break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
Are you tormented with anxiety, depression, or other chronic symptoms of less than perfect health? In 2010, a few people got to participate in a groundbreaking discovery. Dr. Carolyn Dean, world-renowned authority on natural health, has recently patented a technology that is straight out of science fiction. And she invited me to try this product called RNA Drops. And within 12 hours of taking RNA Drops, I could feel an amazing sense of bliss. And since then, I've watched my troubles with depression and other health issues vanish into freedom and happiness again. Listen to hours of testimonials and get your trial bottle of RNA Drops at www.rnafreebottle.com. That's www.rnafreebottle.com. Pay only shipping and handling and get your free trial bottle today at rnafreebottle.com.
Are you prepared? Are you ready? You should be. CampingSurvival.com is your source for camping supplies, survival gear, and survival food. Whether you are an emergency preparedness-minded individual interested in MRE and colloidal silver, a hardcore hiker in need of paracord, a water filter system, and fire piston, or just need a basic first aid kit or emergency kit for the family, CampingSurvival.com is the right place. Call CampingSurvival.com today. Toll free 800-537-1339. CampingSurvival.com. It's not about the end of the world. It's not about surviving a hypothetical plane crash. It's about the satisfaction you get knowing you can take care of yourself and or your family in any situation, anytime, anywhere. Call now 800-537-1339.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're tuned in to the National Intel Report, the Real Talk Radio Show.
All right, we are back. Solo in the seat today. I know I'm not the only one that is feeling this. It used to be that I could get angry and I could displace depression, anxiety. It's getting harder and harder to do that. I feel what's coming. And when Paul Drockton said, hey, we've done what we could do, when it comes to mass communications, I think we do a pretty good job of making a package for public presentation that makes sense. We use logic. We use the law. I mean, I'm not an anarchist. Many people say that the best form of government is to have no government at all. Yeah, if we were a country of a couple 100,000 people, I'd say, hell yeah. Don't touch my itty-bitty because you'll get your head blown off. We're a nation of over 300 million people. But I'm not suggesting that we need to reform government, to repackage it, remake it, and resell it for the $300 million. Because you know what, folks, you might find this odd to hear this, but literally what this government was set up to do was to protect the one or the individual. And then it wouldn't matter if you had 10 people, 10 million people, 100 million people, or 300 million people. If it would not effectively safeguard the liberties and freedom of the one, how could you multiply it 300 million times and have it work any better? Well, the short answer to that is it wouldn't. This is why one of my pet things with the Hollywood crowd and Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek. This was a quoted line that had found its way through several of his endeavors, including the original TV series. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. That is a collectivist mentality. And I'll say again that any government that does not take into consideration its job in securing freedom and liberty for that one individual, that is their mandate. A Republican form of government, government not by decree, but by law. If we do not have that, we don't have a country anymore. Or, yeah, we still have a country. Yeah, okay. Open up your door, look outside. Nobody stole the streets or the pavement or the dirt. It's still there. But does it belong to you? No, it's been pledged against the debt years ago. We're just having the illusion of still occupying and still paying on our mortgage or whatever. We have the illusion. It's not real. And when the time comes, you will not have what you think belongs to you. Hell, you thought this country belonged to you. Well, not physically. You can't proclaim property that belongs to somebody else and say it's mine. No, I understand. You're not the government. You're not Barack Obama. I get it. But we have a crisis problem here because we have people that are running the country that are no longer following the law. That is a given. That, as they say, is true and uncontested. So no matter how many bright ideas that they come up with to try to run this now proclaimed democracy, it will fail. And I liked what Andy Hoffman said, because I asked him, what would be the number one thing? Budget cuts. What would you do? Now, I didn't say, I said budget cuts, because we were talking specifically about their $607 billion fiscal cliff, of which Mr. Bonnier, that basically represents the Republican Party, has already stated, hey, man, we're going to roll with the prez. We're going to compromise. We'll raise taxes. It's necessary. Forget my baby blue eyes and my $300 haircut and this tan that I wear all the time. Forget what I was last week. The situation has changed. We have a situation, and we must take remedial action immediately. Otherwise, we're in real trouble. Now, we're in trouble because of people like you, Mr. Bonnier. That's why this country is in trouble. That you didn't have the fortitude or the human decency and people of your ilk to say, when this 12-term congressman, Mr. Ron Paul, said, you know what? I think I know what the problem is. Aside from you credit people out there, and that's what's really opened up the doors since the Federal Reserve Act was enacted. Cheap and easy credit for the government. Baby, you got to expand. You got to take more control. You need to build, build, build. We got to fight world wars. We've got to do all of these things. We got to bring you a new society. We got to bring you collectivism. And all of this costs money. Funny for socialists to be saying that, or communists, because generally what you do is you take your pile and divide it up amongst all the people. But when you do something like that, nobody's interested in producing. They're just sitting back waiting for their itty-bitty. Well, the itty-bitties of this country have emptied out the coffers. So what you're going to be seeing in the next year, if you are somehow consider yourself to be a conservative out there, and that has been trashed. People don't even know what the hell a conservative is anymore. A conservative is somebody that wants to conserve. Conserve what? Most of what I grew up seeing and believing in this country is all gone. And I'm really not interested in a bloody revolution in this country when there are steps that we the people can take ourselves, putting pressure on our own state legislatures, our own governors, to say this ain't working. Now, you either do something because they're driving us over a cliff. You either do something right now or we'll recall you, or you can bet your sweet bippy that you're not going to be around as being governor in the next election cycle. I can guarantee it. I, the voter. But take a tip from Ron Paul as to what grassroots activism can do. Not for just a political candidate. He was on a mission to teach people about their form of government and actions that they could take. Every day that man's hat was thrown in that presidential ring, it was a theater of great drama and teachings. And his number one message was the Constitution. And people laughed at him. People ignored him. He threw his hat in the presidential ring. Almost in unison, ladies and gentlemen, all the talking heads in the mainstream media, as if a light switch was flipped on, all said the same thing. He can't win. He can't win. What were you afraid of? That he might win? I am just amazed. And it's getting harder for me to recharge the batteries, to go at it another day. It's becoming harder. No, I'm not cast iron, folks. I am just as fallible and as human as you are. And I understand how this is grinding on your psyche, on your health. I understand what you are going through. I probably better than most Americans. Because we're literally in a fight for our country, for our very lives. Because if we cannot restore this republic, and if life becomes not worth living, I don't want to live as a slave. I don't want to grovel at the feet of some yeehaw son of a bugger that's got a badge and a 6-gun and telling me I'm going to submit or I'm going to drop you where you're at. This is not life. This certainly ain't living. Because I've seen the good life in this country. I've seen when things weren't that bad. And here's the irony of ironies. We're going to look back to this day, and this day will look like the good old days. So I am not insensitive to your feelings. I feel you, man. Man, I feel you. But there are ways in which we can get this country back. It's going to take a lot of work. I am not... there's no illusion here. But it's work that has to be done within the structure of our own sovereign territory, folks, our own states, that we can dictate or mandate to the federal government, or we just fire them. Fire all of them by dissolving that government and starting anew based on what? Not somebody's good idea. This is not treasonous speech I'm giving here. I am talking about a constitutional republic, and no matter how you slice this, I am not an enemy of the state. I simply want the state returned back to the people, the real owners of what these documents say. We are the bosses. Not somebody's good idea based in socialism, communism, some kind of far-out thing that's foreign to us. Based on law. Common law. Common sense. Michael Collins Piper, how the heck are you?
How you doing, John?
How you doing, Michael?
All right. Yeah, listen, I haven't heard your show for a long, long time. I get so busy that I don't get a chance to listen to RBN live. Occasionally, I listen to the archives, which are a very valuable archive, I might add. But, I was listening to your guests earlier and listening to you commenting, and I have a slightly different take on the election. Actually, it runs parallel to what you're saying, but I'll tell you what, I like to look at things from, people talk about a glass being half full and a glass being half empty. And, I'll tell you something, I don't perceive this election, although the media, the mass media, is trying to portray it as some sort of great victory for liberalism and for big government and for everything that conservatives and patriots and nationalists oppose, But what I perceive I think more correctly, is that Obama, this was not an endorsement of Obama, but more a rejection of Mitt Romney. This guy Romney, a lot of people perceived Romney as this millionaire who was indifferent to the concerns of the working middle class. They looked at his outsourcing of American jobs and said, hey, there, but for the grace of God go I. That could be my factory that's being shut down. So I hear all these people saying, I hear the liberals in the media saying, oh, well, the Republicans have to appeal to the blacks. The Republicans have to appeal, to the Latinos. Well, I think the Republicans fell down on the job by not appealing to so many white American middle-class workers and people really of all races and colors who thought that someone like Romney was more of a threat to their economic well-being. I mean, it's funny. I talked to more and more people prior to the election who surprised me. Now, I hated Romney, but I've always been largely indifferent to Barack Obama. Not that I admire him or but I've always been indifferent to him. But I was surprised to talk to so many people who frankly said that they didn't like either Obama or Romney.
That's right.
And I think we as a group, the dissidents, I like to call us the dissidents in America, we have been kicked around for so long, we have been defamed for so long, we are so accustomed to seeing things going against us that we tend to look at everything in a negative way. And I think our approach to this election is to say, well, no, what we have here now in our hands, Mitt Romney, he was a classic Rockefeller Republican. That's what he was, and the only reason why he was able to get the nomination in the first place was because he had so much money, his own money, not to mention other money that he was raising on Wall Street, that he was able to overcome some of these other candidates, flawed candidates like Newt Gingrich and
don't forget Ricky Perry.
And your governor down there, not my governor, your governor, yeah.
No,
but you see what I'm saying? I think this guy, I even lost a $100 bet because I said Romney. I had a bet with a friend of mine. I said Romney will never get the Republican nomination. Well, he did have to fight much longer than a lot of people thought he would have to get the nomination. But then here's this classic Rockefeller Republican,
right?
Who gets in there, and he just never was able to make a serious argument that he was offering an alternative. Well, people were looking at the negatives.
Well, and Michael, the way I read this is that Mitt Romney wanted Ron Paul's endorsement. Ron Paul, staying true to himself and the Constitution for which it stands, the Republic, not the democracy, did not give him and did not betray the people that were out there stumping for him to become president. he wasn't going to take the approach of, well, in order to defeat Barack Obama, you people who are going to vote for me, vote for Romney. What I saw out there was principle and action. People were not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. So I'm kind of in alignment with what you're saying here, and I appreciate it. But, let me ask you this, Michael Collins Piper. If, for whatever reason, the Republican National Convention people, the people, when we saw Ron Paul out there, and I have no doubt that he had enough electoral votes, he carried more than 6 states, at least 6, if not more. He should have been able to speak at the convention down there in Florida. But let me get your take on this. A debate between the incumbent, Barack Obama, versus Ron Paul. How do you think Obama would have fared?
That's funny because I just wrote a piece for American Free Press this week. I think it's the one that's in the mail right now. And I said that, everybody said, well, Ron Paul was too old, or Ron Paul had a squeaky voice, and they said all these things about him. I think that if Ron Paul had somehow achieved a Republican nomination, if Romney had fallen apart, if, whatever series of events took place and Ron Paul had gotten a nomination, I think that Ron Paul could have stood up there and presented a clear-cut case to the American people that it would have been just enough for him to win so many of those disaffected Republicans who stayed at home, and converted a lot of Democrats who would have never, under any circumstances, voted for Romney.
Yeah.
I don't think as I say, I don't think Obama's victory, his triumph in the election, can be perceived. I'm coming full circle here. That it can be perceived as a victory of Obama and classic quote unquote liberalism. I think it was just more a disaffection with Romney, a distrust of Romney, and if they had nominated someone like Ron Paul, I think he would have given Barack Obama a run for his money.
Oh, I have no doubt of that.
Yeah.
Because Ron Paul's, he wasn't a slick. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't carefully coiffured. He's been known to put on 2 different color socks and walk around Congress, for God's sakes. And the man was human. He stuck to his principles. He took his oath of office, Michael. He never voted for an unconstitutional piece of legislation. The man was principled. But he, when pressed for time, and they gave him so little time in not only this most recent debate, but back in 2007 when the debates were going on, the media was against him. They scared. Michael, I can remember watching the debates down in the Carolinas back in 2007. And I can remember the whole field up there. Giuliani, Fred Thompson, the whole gaggle was there. And there was a camera off center stage taking a shot of the entire group. Now, there was Ron Paul stage right at his lectern, and every one of those faces were leaning out over their lecterns looking at Ron Paul when he spoke. He scared the hell out of them because what he was doing is literally shaking the false foundation that Washington, D.C. has been built on.
Absolutely.
And it scared the hell out of him. Now, in a more relaxed, when he had time, and I've seen this man do it over, and I've seen him personally over and over, if he's got the time to explain his positions and his ideas, it is hard to walk away from that guy and go, well, he's just another politician.
I'm telling you, John, friends of mine who are your classic liberals who would be inclined towards, one would think voting for Barack Obama, over the past several years, I have heard them say, this guy Ron Paul isn't too bad. It's like they had to admit it. They said, hey, Ron Paul, really, I'll tell you, I have said this, and people have gotten very angry at me for saying this, but I will continue to say it. The best thing for what we'll just loosely call the Ron Paul movement was the defeat of Mitt Romney, because if Mitt Romney had become president, he would be effectively the boss of all bosses of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And he would do absolutely nothing I mean, maybe he would give Ron Paul some nice appointment. Maybe he would make a few noises, to assuage Ron Paul and his supporters. But all told, we saw what the Republican Party, under Romney's control, did to Ron Paul at the Republican convention and throughout the campaign. What do you think they would have done when they were absolutely not only in control of the Republican Party, but in control of the country?
Well, and this isn't Barry Goldwater, a conservative Republican. They, in my estimation, Michael Collins Piper, they picked the absolute worst of the worst to promote. I mean, because this guy, he was a liberal with an R in front of his name. That was all that he was. And when you have Barack Obama publicly congratulating Mitt Romney for doing the pilot program for Obamacare in his own state, what does that tell you?
Yeah. See, this is the whole thing. Like I say, I just didn't think Romney. I never thought he could get the Republican nomination, and when he did, I said, well, how can he seriously try to present himself as a real alternative to Obama? I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, and I think this is really correct in many ways. Obama, in some respects, is pretty much a liberal Republican. It's like there was very little difference, between the two. I mean, I tell you, it's interesting. I pointed this out too a number of times. A lot of people. I had friends who were supporting Romney because Romney made pro-life noises, and they would say, "Oh, well, look at Obama. He's very much in favor of abortion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." But at the same time, I mean, the day before the Republican convention, Mitt Romney's own sister told the press, "Oh, listen, don't worry. We're not going to outlaw abortion under Mitt Romney as president. We're not going to change. We're not going to work against Roe versus Wade." Right in the closing days before the election, former Senator Norm Coleman, a liberal Republican from Minnesota, was out there speaking before Republican Jewish groups saying, "Hey, don't worry. Mitt Romney, if he's elected president, he's not going to do anything to interfere with abortion as we have it today." So, so this is the thing. Even on issues like that, Romney was playing a game with the voters and eagerly accepting, like pro-life support, but not really committed to their agenda. So even on these social issues, that is the one area where the Republicans and the Democrats appear to part company, where they appear to diverge. There's really no real difference.
Well, and it was the emotional push buttoning that the politicians do all the time, Michael. Yeah. Hey, Michael Collins Piper, your Piper Report is on the network on Sunday evenings, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what a great way to wind down your weekend. Take a couple hours, tune into this man's show. He's one of the brightest people out there. Hey, thanks for popping in, Michael.
Good talking to you, John. It's been a while. I just want to call and say hello and make a few comments.
Well, I appreciate it very much.
Keep up the good work, John. I appreciate what you're doing.
All right. Thank you, sir. And sorry, callers. That was unexpected, but very glad to have Michael pop in like that. I hadn't heard from him, like you said, for a while. And he's still out there alive and kicking and running around Washington, D.C., getting a real scoop and poop on what's going on up there. So his show is definitely worth tuning in on Sundays, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that being the Piper Report. Thank you all for being here today, ladies and gentlemen. Back with you tomorrow with another edition of the National Intel Report.
It's true.